How long gone is here? The end of July is nigh. We're recording in Los Angeles and New York. Chris, what's up, bro?
Oh, another scorching day in the concrete jungle.
Okay.
It's disgusting, and I am ready to leave for the equally as warm but somewhat less disgusting city of Los Angeles, California.
It's actually pretty nice here right now. It's 80s and 90s, but you know, it's a dry heat. So it's hotter in New York for sure.
Yeah,
right
it's
now.
Disgusting. As I walked to get my haircut.
By 8 degrees.
Yeah, minimum. As I walked to get my haircut today, I was
Fahrenheit.
Just drenched, watching, just drenched with sweat and thinking about the decisions I've made in my life.
How long is the walk from your flat to your barber?
It's a little further than I would like because the barber is in the East Village, my old neighborhood, and I'm very loyal. And it probably takes 20 minutes. It's not crazy.
20-minute walk, so about a mile or so.
But I stopped at Sweet Green for some sustenance on the way.
Oh.
I ran into a friend of the show, Mike Nouveau, watch dealer to the stars, who was...
Was he creating content while he was at Sweet Green?
I wish, but I don't know enough about watches. I didn't. I told him I love the business of watches more than I love the actual objects, and I think he might agree with me to some extent. He seems to be doing he launched an app. It's a whole thing, but he was going to Vegas for some sort of weird watch
Just because
show.
it says Audemars doesn't mean it's not ugly, right, guys?
Most watches, like most things in this world, are ugly. So that's no one's fault necessarily. But that's just, that's kind of where we're at. That's where we're at, but that's it. Yeah, that's it.
Okay. So you went to get a barber haircut. You went to Sweet Green. And you were sweating through your white tee, or were you wearing something more?
I was wearing a polo, a navy polo, and I was sweating through that. But it's tough because I go to the gym, I sweat in the gym, walk home, continue to sweat, have to cool off before you get in the shower, or you'll keep sweating through that. And then you shower, you hang out for a second, you send some emails, you have a call, and then you're sweating once again. So it's a real lose-lose.
Okay, make you sweat, make you water. How many showers did you take yesterday?
Oh, only 2.
Okay.
Only 2.
One in the morning, one before bed?
Yeah, exactly. I think getting into bed dirty is a sin. Women do it because women don't like to shower because of their hair or whatever, but I don't have that issue, so I try to shower as much as possible.
I don't know. I don't know if I think women want to shower before they get into bed. Definitely more than me.
You would think. Do some research.
The only research I have to do is with my forever wife, and that fucking bitch be showering.
Don't worry, we'll hear plenty.
Clean as a whistle.
We'll hear plenty about this. We'll hear plenty.
No. I mean,
about this.
I think she would be okay with me calling her a checks notes clean person.
Yeah, she's a clean freak.
We don't use the F word in our house.
Oh, I'm sorry. Is that ableist or something? What did I do wrong?
It's somethingist. I haven't figured it out yet, but I know I can't say it.
And if you can't say it, then I definitely can't say it.
And you should really subscribe to the Somethingist. It's my new biannual newsletter.
I love a biannual newsletter. Thank you for updating me on your new ventures. I love when you're launching something new.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was actually just right before having a little workout in the park. There was first of all, I saw a wild pack of deer. Do you know what deer eat? I'm thinking about tempting them with food. They look like they're going to die soon.
I don't really.
Could be the word. Of all the people I know, you're not the person I should ask about feeding livestock.
I think of deer as kind of the best looking pests, kind of. Like they don't really. They look beautiful, but they just kind of eat your plants, I believe is what they do.
So like the baby shambles, they're some of the best looking. You see them ruining your garden, and you're like, oh,
yeah,
majestic.
Unless you have your pellet gun, you're not going to do much damage.
Your assault, your bug assault. Yeah, I mean, I feel like maybe a butterfly might low key be a pest, but boy, are they beautiful. But anyway, I wrote a recipe for Apartamento magazine or book or whatever. They do like food issues. I don't know. You probably know more about this than I do. You know about this shit?
They publish magazines. They also publish books. Shout out to Marco. I know he's listening.
Marco.
But what is the?
But they do like issues where it'll be like this one's all about eggs, and they'll have like guest contributors submit a recipe.
No, that's not. I mean, I've never. The magazine is an interiors magazine, so I think this is for the book arm because they do several books. Like they did the book with Frederick. They've done a bunch of.
Chris, this is for the book arm.
Book arm.
You fucking idiot. It's for the book arm.
I think. I mean, I could be wrong. I think, but what is your what? I mean, don't give it away.
Well, I'll give you
Don't give it away.
a tantalizing teaser. The issue of this book, or the edition of this book, is featuring sandwiches. So who's the doctor they told you to go see? Of course,
I saw a fucked up sandwich today, and I can't remember who posted it. Maybe it was Maddie Matheson.
Sister.
It was like 4 slices of tomato with mayonnaise and butter on bread. And
tomato sandwich.
That's disgusting. I didn't know you did mayo and butter. I thought it was one or the other.
Typically, it is one or the other. Adding butter to it is, you could call that gilding the lily, but good butter's good butter. Get it in my belly.
I just don't care how good a tomato is. Eating a tomato sandwich is, I honestly might vomit. I don't know if I can handle it.
Well, that's what my recipe is for in the sandwich edition of Apartamento book. It's a tomato sandwich. But obviously, I flipped it on its head. It's not your grandmother's tomato sandwich.
Sure. Great. I can't wait.
It's not your nan's.
I can't wait to not try it.
Sarnie. It's not your nan's sarnie, as I would say, famously.
Yeah, people like tomatoes too much is one of my, it's people get excited when stuff is in season. It's just relax. Like, how good? Tell me the truth, Jason. Level with me here.
I'm a tomato lover. You're you're barking up the wrong bush, bitch.
I know. I know you're a tea lover. But
seasonal produce. Like right now, I've got one thing on my mind: a nice melon, a Weiser Farms chilled cantaloupe, perfectly ripe. Whenever the fruits and vegetables are getting super ripe, it's showtime for me.
Okay.
It's like hunting season for being a pussy.
Okay, so I like that. I mean, a Weiser Farms melon is delicious, but I guess my question to you is specific to tomatoes because it's something. It's so common in our lives.
I think our guest today we're gonna do a lot of mater talk. Sorry, but so the tomato is so common. It's in ketchup. You eat ketchup every day. But
I'm saying cantaloupe. Cantaloupe is something you kind of have in the summer. That's not something you're reaching for in the depths of December. You know what I mean? In the same way, like a tomato is part of our lives. It's on a sandwich. It's on everything we eat. They put them in everything. Much to my
year-round
chagrin.
Much to your chagrin, year-round. But it should not be eaten year-round. This
is what I'm saying. This
is when you make a deal with God.
I don't think it's that different. I think it's only different at the highest level and the lowest level. I don't think the middle ground is that different.
Oh God, I think I'm gonna.
I just don't.
I think I'm gonna.
Is it actually? Come on.
Of course, bro. Come on. That's like saying every fucking piece of sushi is pretty much the same.
No. It's not saying that. It's saying it's
worlds apart. Huge differences.
I just don't.
But to the train. I mean, it's the same thing as like good and bad wine, or just like
this is my point.
Normal wine and excellent wine. I can't really. It's not doing much for me, but luckily I'm blessed with the ability to sniff out a good tomato, so it is important to me.
Wow!
If it's like
what a skill! Can't anyone kind of do that? Isn't that's not? You don't have to have a special dog for that.
Isn't everyone a James Beard award-winning food writer and super taster? No, Chris. It takes hard work and also a gift from God. I'm not that person either, but I'm just saying there are people. Who are really good at tasting shit.
No, of course.
By hook or by crook, nature and nurture. And then some people,
I'm saying, I think
simpleton.
I think my mom can go to the grocery store and pick out a ripe tomato. I don't think it's rocket science.
Bitch, you thought, well, first of all, it can only happen for a few months out of the year.
Sure.
And second of all, they ain't all created equal. I think that your mom can because she's a good, honest Southern woman, and I know she knows what she's doing. But she also doesn't love food as much.
No,
that could be an issue.
Thank God I was raised right by people who look at food as merely sustenance and not nerds who get hard for tomatoes 2 months of the year. But
I've seen your ass not eaten for sustenance before. Okay, so pump those brakes, queen.
No, that's true. I do like tomatoes when they're used in a sauce for pizza. I do like that.
Exactly.
That's when they're the best. When they're out of that San Marzano can. Oh, baby. I can't wait to go to LA Cafe and Grocery and just look at all the produce this weekend. Oh, man. I might be late to Idlewild because I'll be looking at produce.
Damn, don't come for the only thing I care about, please.
What if Hey, Jason, sorry, I'm running an hour late to FWB Fest because I kind of got caught up looking at produce at a local farmer's market, and I couldn't help myself.
Some of the squash blossoms, I think it's their last week, so I kind of got to head down there. It's not really an option. But it looks like our guest is here. He's on mute like a good guest.
Professional.
He's done this before, obviously. So I guess we should give him an introduction.
Yeah, our guest today is Jonathan Lethem, who is an author originally from New York. He's written several books that you're probably familiar with. Motherless Brooklyn won the National Book Critics Award, but there's a bunch. He's a teacher, for Christ's sakes. He lives in Maine. He grew up on a commune. There's so much to dig into here with him.
He's a certified genius.
He's got a great head of hair.
He went to Bennington. Great head of hair. Went to Bennington with friend of the show Brett Easton Ellis. We can get into that. And I read something about him in Airmail about his air travel, which is 85% of what we talk about on the show. So we can get into TSA business. And
all right,
things
so
like
we got tomatoes and TSA. Let's give Jonathan a call. All right, let's go. What's up, Jonathan? How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. Now, are you
good?
I feel like when we were scheduling this podcast, you were getting ready to drive across the country. Is that correct?
I was, and I did it, and I'm in Maine.
Okay.
And
I did it?
Yeah.
Okay.
I did it. I got from LA to Maine, which is about as long a string as you can.
That's a journey, and I know you were doing it hopefully on 4 wheels and not 2. You're not a freak, right?
4.
Okay,
yeah,
all right.
yeah.
Just want to make sure.
Did you get a grant for this, or was there some type of bigger picture project going on with this? Or do you really hate TSA that much?
I hate TSA just that much. But no, I also really like the cross country drive. It's kind of a joy for me. And I've actually lost track of how many times I've done it now.
That was my next question, because I've actually never. Jason, you've done it once. I don't think I've ever done it. I've done New York to Atlanta, but I've never done the full thing. And it does seem. I hate being in the car, but I love America, so I'm kind of torn.
See, I hate being in America, but I love the car. Total reverse. But no, I like being on the ground in America. I don't like being in the conceptual space.
Okay, sure. Okay,
Yeah.
Understood. All right, understood.
Okay.
You like to be physically on the ground.
Physically, I like to be touching America, and to touch it continuously with 4 wheels for like a week is really
Okay.
Thanks to
a good
gravity.
time
If
for me.
gravity keeps holding up like she's been doing, you're going to be good to go. So
you can do this forever.
of all,
You can do this forever.
you said you've circumnavigated these fine American states too many times to count. How many of those times did you do it alone?
That's a great question. I could narrow that down. I think I did it completely alone just once, and I had a tiny Jack Russell Terrier with me, so that wasn't even 100% alone. But and that was a special one, a great experience. But usually I've got company for at least most of the journey. This last time I had like a solo leg from Fort Morgan, Colorado to Kansas City.
Who could do that with someone else? The majestic beauty. I mean, you can't. That's top 10 favorite stretches. How many?
11 hours of flat.
All right. So if you're going from LA to Maine yearly at least once, okay, I'm assuming, and do you try to stop in different places, or do you try to stop in the same places and hit your favorites?
Well, I mean, first of all, there are only that many like trajectories you can trace that are not totally inefficient. And then you have some like favorite people, if you have people at all, you have like the ones you want to see. And I've got a favorite cousin in Bloomington, Indiana. I've also got a dear couple of friends in Michigan, in Kalamazoo, and outside of Detroit. So I build the route on hitting either Michigan, which is like my north route.
I thought you were gonna be like, there's this sick burrito place in Santa Fe. I hit it every year.
Well, there are things like that. The best molé I've ever had in my life is in Salt Lake City. Blue Lizard.
Honestly, if
Mexican.
you're going to call your restaurant,
Do you know what
Blue
mole
Lizard,
is? Just to be clear, do you know what mole is? Just to be, are we talking about the same
I
thing?
may not. I may not. I may just be throwing that word around. Good gut check. Thank you.
Sorry, no. I'm assuming you obviously know that's just a joke for it being in Salt Lake City.
I know what it tastes like.
Well, I mean, obviously, you know what it tastes like. It's
I know what it tastes like, and I have opinions about what good mole is, but I don't know if I can give you the
I gotta be honest with you.
Dictionary.
I'm not a huge mole
definition.
guy. If I'm keeping it 100,
comes as no surprise to us.
Blue Lizard in Salt Lake City may turn you around.
I've Salt Lake. We just went to Rhode Island. Jason and I were in Newport for the Newport Folk Festival last weekend. It was the first time I'd been to the beautiful state of Rhode Island, and I've only got a few states left, and Utah is one of those states. So I guess I got to go to Blue Lizard.
Utah is, well, I mean, it has obvious issues, but is actually underrated.
What, all the hot blondes? No problem here.
But the
their
southern
husbands,
half
their husbands
of
are the
Utah,
problem. Sorry for
The southern half is breathtaking.
There's just unbelievable. I mean, Arizona kind of gets all the canyon, stone formation bragging rights, but southern Utah has insane stuff. The coral pink sand dunes, and
that's cool.
There's just a lot of really crazy topography.
All right, so you're in the car.
Molé and topography. That's what I go in for.
You're in the motel. Guy Fieri is on the TV in the motel. He says, "Bop over to the Blue Lizard Lounge in Salt Lake City. They're cooking up scratch-made mole enchiladas." And you said, "I'm assuming that's how it went down."
I'm pulling this car over. So if you're in the car for this long, even if you're with someone, what is the entertainment? Are you just listening to the Stones' entire catalog, books on tape? Are you listening to How Long Gone, all the back episodes of How Long Gone?
For me, there's a cutoff with the Stones catalog. I would never say entire.
Sure, I mean, no one wants the entire catalog. No one wants that.
There's a due date.
What's your cutoff? Really quick. Sorry, what's your cutoff? We just did this with Metallica, the Black Album. Anything afterwards, No Fly Zone. Anything before is A-okay.
Dirty work.
Dirty work
is the end, and and that's being generous. I don't reach for dirty work a lot.
I was going to say that's being generous, but I appreciate you kind of giving them some grace.
Most days tattoo you.
Okay, that's probably where I would want to kind
of a little more conventional.
Yeah, cut it all off. So what do you do? What are you doing in the? I mean, for this long, how much air drums can you play?
Well, for safety's sake, you should only play just the snare, only the snare.
That's right. Yeah. 10 and 2.
Yes. But
snare only.
No, yeah, a lot of music, and I lapse into a lot of NPR. Sometimes you realize you've heard the same story 3 times in a state. in a long state like Pennsylvania or Kansas.
Sure, a long state, of course. That's. I'm going to start hearing that in the election talk. Hopefully, this is a long state. It's crazy.
Mean, if Texas had NPR, because that's a really long state.
Texas is the really long state.
That's the piece de resistance. Yeah. They outlawed NPR years ago, but
maybe Austin. They have an enclave.
They have pirate NPR. In Austin. It flickers in and out.
Richard Linklater is pirating NPR for the entire city of Austin. It's crazy. He's giving back.
Yeah, I got This American Life straight from the board and on USB stick if you guys want to trade. Okay, so you came from New York, moved to LA a while ago to become a professor. How many years ago did you do that switch?
Yes, I took that job 15 years ago to teach at Pomona College. But I mean, it's a little more intricate than that because I'd already been a Californian in my 20s. I lived in the Bay Area in my heedless, irresponsible youth. Very different California, different me.
Sure.
I was a bookseller, and I was, an aspiring writer, and I lived in Berkeley and Oakland.
Oh, wow! I bet that was a heady time.
So that was that like 90s?
Yeah, the actually 86 to 97. I was in.
Just as an aside, you really do look great for your age, Jonathan. Sorry for interrupting, but I mean,
I heard you guys admiring my hair. I was really happy.
Great head of hair. But what San Francisco in the 90s feels like the absolute best time to be in San Francisco and Berkeley in that time, besides the 60s, of course.
Well, I got a window into the invention of everything that is reality now. I mean, like the people who made things like the internet that destroyed all of our lives were just my friends kind of tinkering. Yeah. They were like journalists who got a new job, and they would call you over to their monitor and they'd say, look at this. This is what a website is going to look like, or this is what a blog is going to look like. Here's Salon. This is a comment section. Here's what this looks like. And
you'd be hell no.
Wow.
That guy needs to be in jail. Whoever entered in the comment section, straight bury him under the jail.
I got my hands on whoever entered the comment. Yeah, okay. So this was like heady times in the garage, you and Wozniak.
Yeah, no, a little after Wozniak in the garage. This is more like the media invention, like Wired magazine and Mondo 2000 and journalists leaving newspapers to start things like Salon.
Okay. The early days. Okay, because my next question was, did you maybe miss some investment opportunities to get on the ground floor?
I missed I've always missed every investment opportunity. I don't think like that real good. I mean, the only thing I ever was aware of missing was that I had a feeling it would have been smart to buy stock in Marvel Comics about 6 months before Disney acquired them. Right after the first Iron Man movie, I was like, that would probably be really smart, because if they can make money off Iron Man, they can make money off all those stupid characters.
That's right.
All the key characters.
They're back on top after this weekend. They had a rough couple years.
I had that one investment thought in my entire life, and did I act on that? No, I did not.
Okay, so you were in the ground floor. But I see what you mean. It was the other side. It was like the invention of like digital media, for lack of a better term.
Yeah, people figuring out how it was going to feel to blog or bloviate or blogviate or whatever they do. Mm-hmm. It was all sort of, I mean, specifically, Wired magazine was actually like a starting up idea, and the things it was talking about were all like being introduced. Now it's it's like reading a Encyclopedia Britannica from the 1950s.
One of my favorite ways to read, just really fly through it.
It's like,
when it's like that.
Picking up an AOL CD-ROM to go on TikTok.
Yes.
It's a little...
Yeah, I think
exactly.
Okay.
I guess I was never that early, but Gawker is the real thing for me, kind of like the bar of where
that's a lot later.
It's a lot later.
Later.
I'm not that young. Yeah. I just that was the first one I think I ever really spent a lot of time on, if that makes sense. I really.
But there were other aspects of present reality that were sort of under construction in the Bay Area in the late 80s, like that like you find young men both have tattoos. I trust. Mm-hmm. Yeah. That was when there was only one neighborhood in the world called the Lower Haight where every single person had a tattoo. Yeah. And if you then went away from the Lower Haight, people would be like, "Whoa, you're wearing a tattoo."
Yeah, you'd get stopped. You'd get stopped by someone and asked about your body art.
Okay. You clutch your purse around somebody with a peace sign on their elbow.
Yeah. We talk about this sometimes because I remember when I started getting tattoos, I was probably 18. This is over 20 years ago, and like. Tattoo artists wouldn't do hands or face. That was like kind of a rule. Unless they knew you, they wouldn't. That was like, you don't do that.
They kind of still won't.
Oh, for a minute, I thought you were saying that they were like AI and they didn't know how to do hands.
No. They knew how, but they were just like, this could ruin your life. There's basically.
Yes, right. They were trying to, they're doing interventions.
A tattoo artist told me during this era that the suicide rate for people with face tattoos was like 100% higher than people without.
I thought you were going to say 100% period.
No, it's 100%. Everybody's dead. But
total precursors to suicide.
I see a guy with a face tattoo 2 to 3 times a day in New York City, if not more.
Yeah, bedwetters.
There's always, you can grow hair to cover certain parts of the face.
Yes.
Seems to me like the full neck tattoo is even less.
Yeah, the neck, full neck, the throat stuff is pretty gnarly. I would agree. I luckily resisted all of that stuff because I still want to be a functioning member of polite society when need be.
CNBC calls him. He wants to be camera ready.
Exactly. I need to be camera ready, but young people do not agree with me, and they're getting cursive under their eyes. It's a different time.
My young people that I know can't even read cursive.
They're like we know any other. Yeah, I guess I feel like writers often teach because it's like it's very steady and it's but like, is that something you were interested in or is it something you fell into?
Well, that's actually a pretty large question that I could answer fairly seriously and think about a lot, because I'm a very I didn't get a college degree myself. I'm a failed student. I was not a student.
Welcome to the resistance, Jonathan. You're talking to two guys who don't have college degrees right here.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. You're home.
We've got our posse here.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't do very well. I didn't do very well in college, and I didn't want to. In a way, I was really psyched to throw it off in a extremely alarming way. If I think about it now, I just felt that I was going to write books and that I might as well get to it. And that I knew how I wanted to go about it, and that being in debt was not a great plan.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm generally, the work I did before I was publishing my writings was all working in used bookstores. I was a retail clerk. So I didn't have any kind of relationship to academic contexts, and I was pretty anti, establishment, I guess, institutional. I just didn't really like bureaucracy and institutions very much. And that part of it still doesn't sit very well with me, even though in a way I inflict institutional bureaucracy on my students. And I certainly am caught up in it with my colleagues and I function as part of the neoliberal academy, which is a sort of it's a haven for a lot of crazy people who have weird thoughts like me, but it's also a cash machine for, it's an industry.
Yes.
So I'm very ambivalent about the institutional affiliation that I've wended my way into. On the other hand, there's this like basic thing, which is the contact, the commingling with my students of like my crazy thoughts and theirs, and the desire to make art and to be in a conversation about art all the time, which is sort of like utopia to me. It's like exactly, as someone who grew up wanting to make art, but also wanting to hang out and believing, I was not an Ayn Rand person. I believed in like the community and the communal and the and the power of the collective and so forth. The tension in what I do, a writer just sits alone in a room and then goes quietly crazy. And I like to do that about half the time. But the other half of the time, I want to run screaming out of that room and make contact. And so the teaching is a space where I'm in like a really alive, continuous, exciting contact with people who are not like me, but are interested in knowing what I think and what I do and want to talk to me about it. So that's an amazing thing. So the job, 15 years in, the job is this collision of institutional responsibility, bureaucratic entanglement that I loathe in some fundamental sense, and hanging out with people talking about what matters the most to me, which is a dream.
Yeah, one for you, one for them. It's kind of life.
Yeah, it's a fair bargain. I have a good deal.
That's a good deal. I mean, I just don't know. I feel like you probably have a better view on the state of young people than we do, maybe, because I don't think that we interact as much with that particular, like an 18, 19-year-old feels very, very young to me.
Yeah.
Unless they have a major record label deal, we don't really talk to 18-year-olds on this podcast very much.
Just to be very clear, we don't talk to anybody underage unless they're signed to a major label. That's kind of our rule here on How Long Gone.
It's a good cutoff. It simplifies
exactly. It's simplified. But I mean, are you often shocked, or are things where they should be?
Well, the most discombobulating features are things that I've now incorporated into my experience. There was a time when I would waltz into a classroom and I would drop names from my reality, and some of them would land, and others you just hear the Doppler echo of them disappearing, and you realize that's gone. I would say, like on the Carol Burnett show.
No, that's not good.
It's gone. It will never be known again. It doesn't matter that I can go to YouTube and watch 100,000 hours of the Carol Burnett show. It doesn't exist anymore. And this is true of a lot of things. So it's a radical encounter with the remorseless, appetite that time has for everything you care about. It's going away.
Yeah.
It's disappearing.
And we even have documentary films about Carol Burnett, and that's still a bridge too far.
Yes.
We don't have to pick up a book.
No one would watch that either.
Even if you're on a Delta flight.
Yeah, last thing.
So they have their own reality, and you are allowed to visit it and intervene in it slightly and offer thoughts about parts of it. But there are other parts of it that they wouldn't even dream of showing to you. Like
Cardi B.
I'll tell you a really odd thing that happened to me about 6 or 7 years ago now, is I got called in to LA, to the real LA, because where I teach is the eastern edge. It's not the palm trees and the ocean and the and Hollywood sign. It's just a nice suburban.
You're in SoCal. Thank you for recognizing that.
I'm in SoCal. I'm in the region, but I got called in to a recording studio to speak one line of dialogue in a television program with which I trust you are familiar, called BoJack Horseman. And I got to play myself as a ringtone. There was a running joke that Diane had a ringtone from NPR. In fact, this was an NPR joke, and I was on Fresh Air, and I was the ringtone. That's doing great. a pompous, version of myself, but it's one line of dialogue, and
okay,
and it's in like season 4 that I speak my one line as Diane's ringtone, but with my students who really, they're not fundamentally very likely to be interested in my own cultural production. Sure. Like my books are sometimes they're forced to know that I write books, or they're slightly curious about the situation that I write, but they're not reading my books, and they don't imagine that there's anything in them necessarily for them. I'm exaggerating slightly, but there's a look that I came to associate with the day that a student who just thought of me as their professor was watching BoJack Horseman season 4 episode whatever, and heard my voice on BoJack Horseman, and they would come in and they would look at me like,
things have changed.
Was that you?
Yeah, things have changed.
And I'd be like, yeah, I was on that show, yeah. And so they have their entire own framework of what values and systems, just as I did and you did. I mean, I'm older than you guys. I made my world out of a lot of eccentric ingredients. But mostly I had a like we have the not going to college, and we've got a couple of tattoos, but no face tattoos, kind of.
Sure. Yes.
We can relate to each other. I would find people who also really liked, the strange films or bands or Marvel comics or outre literature that I liked. And I had a context for my stuff. Well, they've got that, and they wouldn't dream of trying to insist that I understand what it is.
I guess I forget that in those situations, it's less of an exchange than I think in my mind it is, because I guess we talk to people all the time, but it's an exchange. We're not in a position of kind of like we are bestowing upon you this knowledge, so it becomes a different thing when you start organizing it that way.
It is different though, in a sense, in that they are living in the era. They grew up in the era of the infinity jukebox, where if they wanted to, they could look at 100,000 hours of Carol Burnett programs. I don't think that particular thing's going to happen, but they do sometimes delve into our world and fish out things of value.
Totally. I mean, this happens constantly now. That's like what TikTok is. That's why.
Yeah, it's a lot of that. But whereas we had the opposite. You lived in a kind of a vacuum.
Have y'all heard about the Roman Empire? This shit is crazy. I saw it on TikTok.
Yeah.
This is before White Lotus. It's like
what?
It's like OG. Yeah.
It was when Rome was really a mess. I mean, things were falling apart. They had to put that place back together.
This is a mess. This place is filthy.
So I sometimes reminisce, and this is my age. Reality is that I could hear a rumor about a record that I might like someone might say, oh, if you're really into that Sex Pistols, you might be interested in the Velvet Underground. And I'd be like, well, what's that sound like? And then I might have to wait about 10 years to find a record store with a Velvet Underground record that I would take home, and I'd be like, oh, that's what they were talking about. There was the opposite of the infinity jukebox. You could just speculate about all the things that you couldn't see and couldn't hear.
Back then, you just had to hum it for them, and luckily, Velvet Underground is quite hummable.
Yeah, or like enact the story of an entire great film noir that you saw once on the the midnight movie, and
just really recall it.
Yeah. Oh man, there was this cool guy, Humphrey Bogart, and it was amazing. And you just,
it was the bee's knees.
Everything was fragments of and rumors of what could be very cool.
No, we talk about that a lot, about how the biggest The biggest difference is like access to things, and how there used to be an element of searching and discovery that just doesn't exist anymore, which is, I mean, obviously I think that's bad because I'm a dickhead, but it's probably for the best. You know what I mean? Or at least
it's really different.
It's just different. Let's say that. It's just
well, back before we had the infinite jukebox and television box as well, something like the Olympics coming on television was a huge deal, and now we could not give a flying shit about it. Did you watch any of these Olympics opening ceremonies?
I accidentally watched a couple of things on a screen at a bar last night here in Maine, and there aren't that many bars with screens. There aren't that many bars where I am in Maine, so it was really unusual to be there. And then I was like, my partner and I were watching people looking at a screen, and we're like, what are they focused on? And we had to remember that it was the Olympics. But it was like a tiny little shadow of that unifying thing.
What are you guys focused on? Oh, it's just the women's water polo first round. Don't worry about it. Just drink your beer.
I found myself amazed at how ready people get every 4 years really quickly for like knowing about all these people and things and events. And I'm like, oh, you have to really assemble a lot of information to appreciate it.
Dust off my luge rules and regulations book every 4 years.
Well, thank God to our friends at NBC. They're able to put together emotional packages that explain an athlete's journey, voiced by Call Her Daddy. So it's a great kind of combo of worlds.
So you know who to root for.
Yeah, so you know exactly. I don't think that the opening ceremony was like one of the worst things I've ever seen. And I can't believe that the French people are proud of it, but that's a whole other issue.
I have been hearing some weird trickle down stuff about the opening ceremonies, but it's one of those things where by the time it gets into your feed in the form of memes, you really can't tell which things are jokes about jokes about jokes and which things are actually images from the event itself. So
you had to be there, man.
It looked really crazy, or else people are making really crazy, fake art about it. But I just don't know what it is.
In this case, Jonathan, it's both, and that's kind of the dream scenario for me personally. I don't care to know what's real and what's not, as long as it's all funny.
It's advanced.
That's a welcome to the future moment. Everything's going to be both from now on. It's going to be really crazy, and then people will decorate it with craziness, and you'll just never remember which was which.
Perfect. Smooth brain, baby.
Hopefully that'll be the new sort of class system of those who understand what is real and fake and what is not. That's a currency that I can get behind.
A differentiator.
On account of not having other currency. Yeah.
Well, it's also it's a superpower. There should be like a character in the comic books who touches things and reverses them back from their deformation into memes and AI, or
you see it. That's
and he's like, that's what that really was.
Damn.
And he touches it and it just reverts to its like baseline condition.
That's like the Twitter thing where under a fake news tweet. What are those called again, Chris?
It says it's fake. It's what do you mean? Why are you asking me about fake news? I don't subscribe to that.
No, you're just a Twitter power user. There's like a specific phrase for what those are called.
Oh, I don't know, but there's like a warning that comes up that basically says this is not true underneath, which is like insane that's where we're at. They're like, you can post whatever you want.
Continuous.
We're going to intervene.
Debunking.
Yeah, we're going to debunk. Exactly.
So okay, so you're in Maine. Are you summering? Are you just doing press? Are you barbecuing, getting drunk every night?
Yeah. Oh no, this is where I come in the summers. This is where I like to be. And I mean, I have a house here that I bought when I was first running away from New York City in the early aughts. That when I didn't know I'd be working as a professor in Southern California. I just wanted to be somewhere other than New York, and I found this insane, beautiful coastal place that I come to, and I love to be here and write. And so I still come here. I get here whenever I can, which is basically summers. And yeah, I count on it as a place to both see East Coast friends who come up, because midsummer in New York is a time to.
You're telling me, baby. I was just complaining about it in the intro. I've been sweating all day.
Yeah.
Well, the problem is the house guests, though, because I don't know how many rooms you got, but when people know you got a couple,
well,
extra,
that is it's management. It's management. Yeah, it's a lot of changing sheets. I run a hot sheets establishment, as they say. But the ocean is swimmable here, which always sounds more macho than it is. It's like actually not impossibly cold. It's something you can immerse in and be really happy and swim
Okay.
around a little bit. And I write. So I write and I swim and I change sheets.
Okay, that sounds pretty meditative. But what's
good.
what's the seafood intake looking like? Are you going
It's
absolutely
constant.
crazy?
Constant. Fried Fish Shack is 2 miles away. It's called the Fish Net.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just a matter of is it the crab roll or the lobster roll or the
Fishnet sounds like one of your San Francisco startups in the late 80s, early 90s. But you're saying they got crab? Okay, that sounds.
I think you're thinking of Fishnet Triple X, which I'm also a patron.
I don't know
patron of
about
that as well.
I don't know anything about
this
that.
is the original.
Okay,
deep frying Fishnet.
deep frying. Got it.
So every day, I'm assuming you hop on a rusty beach cruiser and ride over to the crab shack. And then you close your eyes, throw a dart at the menu.
If what you mean is my Toyota, it is rusty, and that's my beach cruiser. And
Okay.
yeah, the salt air and the humidity.
What kind of Toyota are we talking about, Jonathan?
It's a baseline Toyota. It has no other name. It deserves no other name. It's just
can you loosely describe the body style? Is it a truck, an SUV, a convertible?
Rusted.
Prius?
Body style completely corroded.
Okay, good. This is a dream car.
Wind electronics barely working. No AC.
Mhm.
Hold on though. This is not the car you drove across the country. This is the car you keep.
No,
in Maine.
not at all.
Okay.
This is a car that can only stay on this peninsula now.
This is his Mainer.
This is the country car.
Yeah, people love Maine. I've never really been, if I'm being honest with you.
You people.
I've lived in New York for a long time, but I would always just fly somewhere. I don't have a car. I've never had a car here. And I've just never been to any of these places, and they look beautiful.
The people in Maine are counting on that attitude to be the prevailing attitude. Like, yeah, it sounds all right, but that's really kind of far away, and I don't have a handle on it, so I'm not going to go there.
I got a 2-hour max in the Prius kind of thing, so I don't. There's only so many places I can go.
You get there fast, you take it slow. It's Maine, baby. We love it. But then also, if you don't belong, don't be long is sort of the attitude from the locals. I'm hoping.
Right. Well, there's a sign at the bridge where you enter Maine from New Hampshire that says, if you lived here, you'd be home by now.
Mm-hmm.
And but also Maine, the way life should be. So they're actually, it's a low population place that is looking for more year-round people. But if you come to a particular part of it, you're invariably going to be exposed to the opinion that there are too many summer people.
Yes, of course.
So what they really want is a full commitment. Don't come up here unless you're just going to stay
year round in remote Maine.
You sound like my ex-girlfriend, Maine.
Yeah,
she didn't want it. She didn't just want a summer boyfriend.
No, this is the problem. Try to lock him down.
I told her in April what the deal was, but
in April.
I thought that was responsible. Get out ahead of it.
Every April I come up here.
There's plenty of time.
Okay, so we're talking a lot about driving. In the intro, I brought up a little TSA action. I know that you had some thoughts about it. I was reading the little airmail piece about it, and I had a lot of through lines and similarities. You had thoughts on what clothes to wear.
Yeah.
Slippable. You have a slippable pair of Pradas that you always fly in.
Yeah.
I like flying with a shirt with a front pocket in it to put things in while I'm seated. But
that's good. Right. You do need pockets. Yeah.
All right, Ernest Hemingway, relax. Okay. Jesus
yeah,
Christ.
I don't have like a half a cigar and a quill pen. It's like an edible and my iPhone. It's not really dignified belongings.
No, you don't keep your mini moleskin and your Cartier pin just right there. It's too bad.
It's the other Biscoff, really.
One for later.
Okay, sorry, Jonathan. Okay, so we need pockets on the plane, and I'm assuming every decade you age, you need another pocket.
You need more pockets, and you need to be real about how much you're really going to sleep. I mean, I used to come onto the plane thinking it was a workspace, but the seat in front of me has gotten closer, and
that's right.
I've gotten more tired.
Thanks, Biden.
And the
sounds like a national song.
Best of yes. And I just like to embrace exhaustion now.
Okay, so you're hopping on the plane. And you're going straight to nap time.
It's about shutting down.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Are you drinking something? Are you smoking something? What are we doing?
No, I don't need that on the plane. I want to do that when I'm going to be awake and it might be fun. I like the earplugs and the eye mask
Mhm.
and the neck pillow.
Oh wow! Oh, so you got the whole kit.
It seems a little fussy, but the neck pillow that keeps you from doing the constant
Yeah.
snore,
Mhm.
head rolls forward, stabilizes the position of the jaw. That's pretty
Keep
good.
your jawline looking good.
And when I really have it together, I just put a lot of things on my head, and which has the added benefit that other people don't think of you as a human being anymore, so they don't try to talk to you.
That is a major bonus.
With enough on your head, you can even hang signs on the stuff. It's things like that will say like, "Don't wake me until breakfast" on the Atlantic flight.
Back in 15, things like that.
Yeah.
You using or sticking with the Rolling Stone tattoo you scale, what is the cutoff on number of hours of a flight where you decide to leave the neck pillow at home versus bring it with you?
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah, well, I probably wouldn't trouble over it on going up and down the coast, like a hop to LA to the Bay Area or Seattle or something. But
call it 3 hours, maybe a 3 hours.
Yeah, under 3 hours, I might not bother with the neck pillow.
Okay.
But usually when I'm getting on a plane, I'm hopping the breadth of our great nation. Often, then only to get on another plane and hop to Europe or something. I do a lot of long flights because
he's a hopper.
Because also when you're in SoCal, you're kind of in a geographical island.
Yeah, it's far from everywhere.
It's not like being in New York where you might take a 35-minute flight to Boston and you're like, oh, I could have done that on Amtrak.
Mm-hmm.
Once you're in LA, you're a long way from kind of everything.
Or get to London in 2 Tarantino movies from New York. Isn't that something? But
right
over here in LA, whenever you go to Melbourne or Perth, oh baby,
that's a big thing. Yeah,
that's where we get you.
I did Singapore
sure
in one shot. That was endless. I think I changed who I was on the duration of that flight. I became someone new.
I didn't change planes. I changed my personality. My entire
I had all new skin.
I had a total encounter with myself, and I revised a lot of stuff, and then I got off the plane in Singapore.
Did you pay for that flight?
Oh, that was free. Definitely. The Singapore Writers Festival paid for that flight. And they gave me a choice. There was like an honorarium or first class on Singapore Air. And I completely went for the first class.
I don't even know what an honorarium is. What is that? Is that like a terrarium?
It would be
for
like
your
some
medals?
cash in hand.
Got it. Okay.
No, it's where they give you an amount of money that is small, so they call it something nice to make it feel better.
It sounds, but yeah.
Instead of fee, it's honorarium.
And you said, "I'll take the store credit, sweetie. Fly me out there."
Yeah, I'll take the famously great first class Singapore.
Do I want $1,400 or a $14,000 plane ticket? Okay, so
it was exactly.
You were sleeping. You were sleeping like a bastard in there, probably, right?
I had time to have a couple of sleeps and watch a couple of movies and eat like 4 amazing meals. That flight was a lifetime.
I kind of like that.
My problem is I wake up to the smell of the food. That interrupts my sleep. They don't even have to tap my shoulder.
So you'd have to add another face thing that I don't even think about, which is nose plugs too.
Nose plugs, exactly. So then I might die because the breathing would get tough.
Yeah, I was going to say, if you use the neck brace to keep you from your mouth from hanging open, and you use the nose plugs, the breathing is a challenge.
There has to be some type of smell inhibitor medication or a pill you can take, or there's an app for it or something, right, Chris? Maybe this is what we need to work on.
I would love to find something to stop smells that I don't want, because that's the number one.
It's like a Claritin non-drowsy 24-hour smell relief. I got nothing.
That's the number one problem in my life. One of the top problems in my life.
Okay, I'm going to say one thing.
Mm-hmm.
Then you need to be really have a beeper on your phone about when you take showers, because the people who can't smell anything often are also the people that you
are
smelling vividly.
Yeah, I see what you mean. You mean. I'd be smelling vividly too.
Chris,
vividly.
He's so affected by it. He actually actively tries to get COVID before his flights to affect his sense of smell and taste.
I think I had COVID last episode, but I'm fine now.
Many have died.
There's a story about Devo early in their career that they were being flown somewhere and they decided together to not shower for like 4 days. before they got on the flight.
Just as a
true story,
as like a outsider art,
just as as a Devo intervention, as a
yeah, that's outsider art. There's no other way to describe that. That's
exactly,
just mean to your.
Yeah, get outside.
That's just
Get
mean,
out, bro.
That's just mean.
Yeah, it's not kind.
You mentioned earlier at the beginning of our convo that your students may or may not be able to read cursive. And I know that that's a partial joke, and you're exaggerating.
Well, actually, I'm thinking of one of my own.
Truth to that.
One of my own children, in particular, who will hand me something in cursive, like a menu, and he'll be like, "You have to read this to me."
Can I get a translation, pops?
Yeah.
Okay. I think I read or I heard something recently that people are considering, or I guess teachers, professors, whatever, are considering bringing back handwritten things because of AI's. Students using AI to write pieces or stories or turn things in. Is that something you've considered combating with your students?
Well, yeah, so for the college professors, there's you can think about AI in many different ways, all of which are interesting, except for the one that college professors are stuck with, which is having to catch a new kind of very, very boring cheating. And excuse me. And
it is boring.
I'm doing my best to stay out of that situation because I teach creative writing.
Yeah.
I actually think the place where AI meets the artistic practice of creative writing shouldn't be just a pearl clutching, oh my God, they're coming for our creativity space. But that actually, it's a tool. It could be okay. It's a question kind of like a lot of things of, how are you going to use it? Where is it going to enter your practice?
Use your responsibility.
What are you going to do with it? Well, not even taking the ethics, the kind of moral element, the responsible element out of it, being like, are you going to be interesting or boring with this? Just like what can you make happen that would actually be like worth doing? Would be fun.
Yeah.
Would be create something that no one's read before. But yes, if you're assigning a paper or a take-home test or something, suddenly you've got this problem that people could just generate reams of generic garbage which would actually, ironically, only be distinguished by the fantastical mistakes that AI is prone to making. Otherwise, it would be totally drab and dutiful and, syntactically really dull. And, so this is a real thing. And there are already lots of workarounds. I mean, the Blue Book is coming back. Do you guys know
what's the Blue
Book?
Like
an examination book, a really cheap little notebook that the professor hands out at the start of a class or a test, an exam, and says, write all the answers in here by hand, and then collects the Blue Books at the end of the session. But yeah, it's a sort of a sad area.
Do you find, to borrow a comic phrase, do you find your spidey sense for AI detection has increased, or do you feel like you're doubting, you're second guessing yourself, or you're like, oh my God, is everything fucking AI? Like, what? Like, does it drive you a little crazy, or do you feel like you have a good sense of when it's fabricated or not?
Well, I have not been presented with a lot of fake AI, paper writing essays. The kind like I say, my position in college teaching is slightly different.
Yeah.
So I haven't really examined like a real one and a fake one and tried to test my own capacity to call it out. But just looking at stuff on the internet, I mean, I feel like when a website throws itself at me because of some search result, and it's like within a couple of sentences, if it's doing that weird, muddy, churning, deliberate thing, it's so obvious. It's just so So obvious. Pretty obvious. It's so obvious.
Or the bulk email thing.
Or the bulk email, yeah. I've never thought that it was going to be fooling me on that level, or that I'd wonder. It's just like it throws its weird, distinctive form of gray text, gray prose at you really, really quickly, almost to a degree that I find funny. So I think, I've used it in I wrote a couple of short stories where I let the AI extrapolate some stuff for me and try to fill in some narrative sections. And what's great about it is this incredible, deliberate, every sentence is slightly redundant to each other sentence. Over establishes everything. So then you can kind of make a certain amount of fun out of that, but you have to rework it.
Sure. So you're like, I'm still doing the work.
We're still doing the work. Absolutely. You have to use it as it's like a paint in the, in the toolbox now.
Yeah.
It's just a guitar pedal or something. You got to keep twiddling those knobs.
Just let the wah-wah pedal do the entire solo.
No one wants that.
But I guess you're the wrong person to ask because you're teaching the one group of students who actually want to write, and
well, that's it.
Other people who have
I'm
to.
also I'm at a very lucky position, doubly so. But because yes, I'm teaching a proportion of students within my institution who are there to try to figure out what's interesting about writing. So the idea of a workaround, just getting out of the effort, doesn't appeal to them. But also, I'm in a very elite college with a lot of really amazing.
Yeah, I was going to say these nerds we got some overachievers. We ain't dealing with
these are very upstanding students who are on the whole not like kind of trying to just slag off their whole effort and just get through.
Yeah, that's too bad.
What university is this, by the way, Jonathan? Which one?
Pomona College.
Pomona College.
And so I meet a lot of terrific students. I'm not running down other institutions or situations. I just mean that.
No, it ain't. I know what you mean. It ain't University of Alabama where they're going so they can go to the football games.
Well,
they're going there to learn.
I also, there's a lot of proneness in our culture. I mean, especially in certain areas of the, political world where they're trying to score points, where they're just like, they are beating up on the 18-year-olds. They're just, the idea of them is just, they're unbelievably lazy and useless and out to lunch and uninterested or ahistorical. And I'm like, I don't really, that's not really who I'm spending time with.
Not my teens.
Not what I'm spending time with.
How would you compare Pomona College to a college like Bennington, perhaps?
Well, that's a cool question for me because when I was a college student, I went to Bennington for 3 semesters, but I did that in the mid 80s. So I'm comparing, we already did some of this. The past is another country, right? So, but as it happens, I recently visited Bennington. I was invited to give a talk, and I had this fantastic memory trip where I got to walk around the old dorms and be in these, because it's I don't know if you know that campus, but it's a really unbelievably, Bennington's like a dream campus. It's so beautiful there and so tiny.
I've heard.
So tiny and
Lily, who did, sorry for interrupting, Lily, who did the podcast about Bennington, she was on our show a couple of years ago, and so was Brett. So we know about it, but I don't think either of us have been there.
You know about it. Yeah. Yeah. It's like a kind of a stage set of a college campus. So being back there, it's sort of timeless. So I really was able to trip out on being back there. But I also got to meet some of the present version of the professors and students and just taste the atmosphere there. And it's comparable in some ways. I mean, Bennington, the brand is a more eccentric brand than where I teach, Pomona College. Bennington is more in that, like, anti-college college, which is what drew me to it. It was why I thought I might be able to be a student there. And they still do that, but I think they do that in a more, I don't know, I guess, if you talk to Brad, of course, some of these stories, or if you know Lily's podcast, when I went there in the mid 80s, it was kind of a crazy place. It was like a branch of Andy Warhol's factory that had been turned into a college in the Vermont woods. Now it's got its feet on the ground. It's still an anti-school place, innovative, unusual, attracts the really
our nation's most eccentric.
Yeah,
but it ain't cheap. It ain't cheap either.
Well,
so
it never was cheap. It never was cheap. But they're none of them are cheap. It's just ridiculously expensive to go to college. I mean, when I went to Bennington, it was the most expensive college in the country, and that price tag was $13,000.
$13,000 can't even get a half a middle school education with that. What the hell?
That's 2 days of pre-K.
That's 2 days of pre-K in Silver Lake.
Yeah.
Okay, so you did not complete your teachings or your schoolings at Bennington.
No, I am. To this day, I remain a sophomore on leave from Bennington College.
That's nice they had you back without even having to graduate. I should have gone to college for a semester just so I could go speak.
They never considered giving you an honorary degree after you got...
They don't give. That's part of their part of their brand is they don't mess with.
And we kind of like that. That kind of turns us on, doesn't it?
It's sort of good. Yeah. Yeah. But they do. I mean, in a way they have given me one because they list me now. They've sort of backed into it. They list me as class of 86, which is when I would have graduated.
Well, they list if you go on to have some success, they're willing to claim you. It's the ones who don't have any success that they're not interested in claiming.
Yeah.
Well, I had a little bit, and it's sweet that they like me over there because I didn't honor that institution in any particular when I was there.
Sure. You didn't do anything extra special.
No, I wasn't helping. How
old are your kids?
My two kids are teenagers. They'll both be in high school.
Okay.
In September.
Do they think you're cool? They think you're a freak? What's the vibe?
I don't want to speak for them. You'll have to get them on your show about their assessment. But I have a good time with them.
Okay.
I have a really good time.
That's all that matters.
We do fun stuff together. They have not turned a cold shoulder to me.
Okay, that's the real. I think that's the real litmus test.
And they come to Maine with you, or do they stay in Cali?
Yeah. One's still here. The other one ran back to be with his buddies in California. So but he was here for a part of the summer.
Yeah, he needs to shred in LA. I get it. I was the same when I was that age.
Yeah, well, I know. And you just called it. He's a guitarist, and he wanted to go to a special jazz workshop.
Jazz workshop. You better.
He kind of shreds
tell him if he wants to make some money. He's got to find a new genre.
He's not like a He's not like a wah-wah pedal guy anymore. He got really esoteric, but he's good. He's a good player. Cool.
Young people are playing complex jazz now. I've seen it online.
Yes, who knows? Next they may be writing in cursive.
It's all
cursive
uphill.
Is the jazz of letters, right?
It really is. It's the jazz of writing in a lot of ways, Jason. In a lot of ways. So are all of his friends into that? Is that like something that's happening?
He's got a cohort of cool jazz boys.
Damn,
yeah.
He's got a tiny drum kit, probably. No one's doing drugs or smoking cigarettes.
Well, he's not driving, so he can do a full drum kit.
Okay. Oh, wow. I see. Yeah.
You see, you get that call back to the early part of our program.
Yeah, that's actually
good stuff.
I did not know this. I didn't know this was a thing. I didn't know what jazz was when I was, in 15 or whatever.
I just knew it was the part of the record store I wasn't in. I mean, I saw the word.
I am familiar with this word. I know how to spell it, but I don't really know what it means.
They don't have the Ramones in that section.
They do not have the Ramones in that section. They do not.
But I mean, if you listen to music nowadays, it's gotten so bad that we have to reach for jazz.
That's
so we've been forced into the jazz section.
We've been forced.
They figured out how to drive us. They drove us to it.
Yeah, it's like, I don't understand these time signatures, but shit, I'll take this over another round of espresso.
I heard the new Ice Spice, and I just started going.
I like listening to jazz when I'm doing stuff, because it doesn't have lyrics, which makes it easy to kind of work to.
Mm-hmm.
But playing it seems very difficult and hard to understand to me. To my mind, as a non-musician.
For your mind, yeah.
I think playing it is difficult. I think that's true.
Yeah. It's a bit of a wank fest, bro. That's kind of half the battle.
Well, I'm not going to say that. I'm not calling out the wank fest. Because look at what I do. Look at how I spend my time.
Yeah, writing is a wank fest too. I mean, no question there.
But we say it as if having a wank is a bad thing. Am I right, listeners?
Good point. Are you like a lot of writers that like find it torturous, or do you actually enjoy it?
Well, I know from listening to your program that you are gonna shame me deeply if I talk about the infinite sacrifice and deep Sisyphusian effort that I undergo every day. But no, actually, you're out ahead of me on that, because I always feel that writers exaggerate the
pain,
suffering.
Yes.
And that really we are in fact having a wank fest, that there's a lot of self-pleasuring going on, that we're amusing ourselves, and then revising that to make it even better, so it looks like we had that we were funny the first time, and then we're the master of what do they call it, Monday morning quarterbacking. Every character is clever because we get to fix their dialogue, and then we come out and we show it off to people. I think it's a lot of fun. And if I didn't, I always tell my students this: if you don't find the joy in this practice, you won't do it, because then if it's suffering,
it ain't like the money. The money ain't so good that you're willing to slog through.
Right? No, absolutely. It's not a good investment. You're not buying Marvel stock just before the Disney acquisition, and what's more, if the the things about it that can be irritating or a little bit, like sensory deprivation, like sitting alone, not moving your body, just barely moving your fingertips for hours, having to shut off the internet because it's distracting. If those things bother you, you're not going to do this work because it is joyous. And also you're going to convey the joy, like making it interesting, even if you're writing about deep things or profound things, or you're trying to move people or make them think about painful things. There also always has to be pleasure in the language, surprise, elements of animation or velocity or excitement, or no one will read it. No one will read it if you're not having a good time. So I think it's the underrated aspect of this work.
No one will read it if you're not having a good time. I think that's very true. I think you can feel it.
I also like the word velocity in there.
I believe that it's true.
Whoever's listening to this and who has written a paragraph where you hit period and you're like, oh shit, that was fucking good. Like that's probably a very addicting feeling if you're able to string enough of those along to get a book deal, Well,
and I almost see that as like the measure of a workday, as I have to like crack myself up really great, to a great extent at some point. And I have to have been like, whoa,
Johnny boy, you've done it again.
Yeah. But also if you only execute the plan, it's boring. You have to find a surprise, like the characters have to say something you hadn't intended. And, you have to be a little bit like a reader as you're writing and like, whoa, that was cool. What was that?
Can't wait to see what happens next.
Yeah, exactly.
While you're writing it.
From my own brain. And the new book is out now, or is it out soon?
So I have a book that just came out, I think like today or yesterday.
The sheets are still hot.
It's really just out, which is a collection of my writings about art, which include fictions about art, called Cellophane Bricks. But I'm going to be all over the place talking about the paperback of Brooklyn Crime novel, my last novel, which came out in November last year, and so it'll be paperback in about I guess like 6 weeks.
We love when it hits paperback. Okay,
it's a little easier to carry around, and you feel less bad taking it, to the beach or setting your coffee on it or something.
That's true.
I feel less bad throwing it in a dumpster.
That's true too. Yeah,
that's all. It's recyclable.
Only when I'm done finishing it, when the single tear falls as I close the last page. Chuck it in the bin. Feels good.
Exactly. Yeah. That's the plan. Jonathan, thank you for joining us. It was a pleasure.
An honor.
To chat with you.
This was good fun
today.
Thanks for having me along.
Oh, of course, anytime. Enjoy your summer over there in Maine and have a crab for me.
I'll listen to some of your episodes on the long drive back to LA.
Please do. That's why we do this, Jonathan. That's why we do this. We'll talk to you soon. Thanks again.
Yeah, and everyone go grab Cellophane Bricks. Only on Amazon.com.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Jonathan.
Thanks, Jonathan. Later.